Hi everyone, this is Essie Smith. I hope you can hear me. I'm not sure if you can. Things are kind of crazy here. And I'm feeling a little emotional right now with the storm coming. I don't know if it's between the storm and the stress, and I'm worried. I was watching the Weather Channel at breakfast this morning, and of course, when you hear your hometown mentioned and they tell you to brace for a possible Category 4 hurricane, and it's a little intimidating. You don't know if you're going to end up going home and you're going to have a home. Or I also worry because I have my 4 kids and my 2 grandkids, and my sister and my brother and other family members are there. So I know that they'll come together as a team, but you always worry about what could happen. They also said that this is going to be a very slow moving storm. So with the storm coming in slowly, that means it's going to be a very, very long, long night. The last time that we had a storm like this was in the 2004-2005 hurricanes. We had Francis, Ivan, and Jean come through, and then in 2005 we had Hurricane Wilma. And I'll give you a little bit of background. If you've never been through a hurricane, it's both exhilarating because you're seeing this force of nature, which is absolutely magnificent, and also terrifying because you have no control at all. And Hurricane Jean, or Hurricane Francis, excuse me, which was the first storm, I spent it in the attic bailing water. Our roof didn't hold up. We lost the whole front part of the roof on our house, and I was sitting in the attic in the middle trying with pans, pots, lids, ice chests, anything that could hold water to capture what was coming in through the roof. And I'm looking out. As I'm sitting inside the house in the attic, I'm looking out at the hurricane, the storm clouds. And I had one son at one end of the house and another son at the other end of the house. And they were trying to catch the water too as the shingles were flying. My daughter was down, was in the house moving furniture to the other side so that we wouldn't lose everything. My husband was trying to seal the windows and the doors because even though we had shutters, with the rain coming in, it was coming in like this. And so it was just such a driving force that even sealed, it was coming through the windows, through the shutters, the whole 9 yards. And we actually had water coming out of the electrical outlets. That's how bad it was. And so during the eye of the hurricane, which passed right over us, we grabbed as many tarps as we could find, and we climbed up on the roof in 50-mile-an-hour winds and started nailing them down, which, let me tell you, I'm terrified of heights. So getting up on the roof wasn't so bad. Trying to stay on it without falling off was difficult. But then trying to get back down when you have those wind gusts was pretty intimidating. And then on top of that, we had what they call green lightning. All the power was gone, and the trees are bending, and we had little eye holes cut out in the windows so that we could see. And as we were watching, it's like, oh, there's the tree, oh, the tree's missing, oh, it's on the house behind us. And the green lightning is lighting up the sky, and my sister ended up having somebody's carport going through her ceiling in her kitchen. My brother had a tree branch go through the roof of his house. So there was a lot of damage. We had a pine tree that ended up falling. It was a massive tree on the power lines, and it ripped the masts out of 5 or 6 homes. And so we had no power at all, even after, because we had to get the power company out there to get the tree off the lines. And so it was 19 days in the heat of Florida without electricity. And my husband, luckily, is very, very handy. And so him and my family and our friends all got together. And the Monday after the hurricane, we had shingles delivered, and they ended up stripping the roof and putting a new one on. And during this time, I had the ceilings collapse in the bathroom and in our bedroom, and we had other water damage, and I'm trying to pick up. It's like we were walking around the yard going, oh, is that your roof or mine? So we were picking back and forth, whose roof wasn't laying in the yard. And even, 2 years later, we're still finding people's roofs, shingles in the yards. And we put a new roof on, and Catalina remembers definitely the hurricanes. You don't forget a hurricane. That the house is, everything is howling, the house is shaking and vibrating, and you're hearing things hitting it. And the wind force can be so strong that a piece of styrofoam can actually go through a piece of plywood. That is just how intense it is. And we end up getting the roof on about 10:30 Sunday night the following week. Monday, Ivan hit and dumped 11 inches of rain. The insurance adjuster came out on Wednesday, and then we had Jeanne hit, which was a Category 3 hurricane. And this one is supposed to be even more intense. Jeanne hit at 125 mile an hour. The following year, Wilma hit at 125, and it was supposed to be a tropical storm or a Cat 1. And when it hit, my mom was actually thrown out of her house and broke her hip. And, that the sound of the roaring. And with this one, just like with Frances, it's very, very slow moving. And it's going to be, about a 12-hour or more storm. And then I worry about all of the rain. Florida has had a tremendous amount of rain lately. Everything is flooded. The lakes are all over, almost, overflowing. The canals have been really high. And when we get, there's no place for the water to go. And they're expecting a significant amount of rain. This isn't going to be a dry hurricane. It's not only going to be long, but it's going to be a very, very wet one. So, I'm worried about the kids. This will be their first one. First hurricane without Mom there. So I think Mom's more of a nervous wreck than the kids are. I have to remember that the kids are all in their, mid to late 20s, 30s, so they're perfectly capable of handling this, but it's hard to let go. So if I get a little emotional, just bear with me. My husband is also not with me on this one. We have an RV, which they don't do well in hurricanes, especially if they've got 130 mile an hour winds or more. And so we were forced to evacuate this time. And we secured the house, did everything we could. My oldest son and his wife have to stay at the house because they were evacuated out of their home. He lives near the water, and so he's had to sandbag his house to try and hopefully keep the storm surge from coming in. And so he'll be at the house. I just chatted with my daughter-in-law a minute ago, and she said that their dog is attacking my iRobot who was vacuuming the floor. I forgot about that one. Zoe doesn't like the iRobot. She thinks it's a alien creature. And so, anyway, so if I get kind of emotional, this is going to be my first hurricane without my family around me. And it's kind of nice knowing that everybody's there. So if I'm talking with you guys, it kind of takes my mind off of what's going on. Catalina's here with her husband, so at least I can go hang out with her and hopefully forget. But I'll give you guys live updates. Right now, I'll see if I can get you a little bit of a view. This is outside in Orlando. And if you've heard of the typical saying, the calm before the storm, well, that's what happens. Everything becomes very, very quiet. It looks like just a typical overcast, rainy day. And by this afternoon, that's when the winds will start picking up. And they'll do it kind of gradually, and then they'll be getting stronger and stronger and stronger. They are expecting hurricane force winds as far inland as Orlando. And anyone who remembers the 2004-2005 hurricanes can remember that Orlando, for about 2 years, if you were to fly in, you would see a lot of blue tarps on the roofs. So the good thing is we've all got good roofs on the house, and that's the thing that you've got to worry about is if you lose your roof, you're basically screwed. There's absolutely no protection. I've told the kids to make a safe room in the house. and to make sure that they have some supplies in there. Annette, I hope your brother is going to be safe, because this is something you take serious. You know, they've already had a number of deaths from the storm. And it's kind of crazy, you know, that I'm at the Indie Book Fest during it, but there's a lot of people that are already had come in, or who have already, they live in the area, so they're going to be here. And it's actually probably one of the safer places to be for them. The good thing is the hotel does have a generator, so more than likely we will lose power. I know when I was coming in yesterday, it took me 2.5 hour drive, just from where my husband is to here, and then it was a 5.5 hour drive from Fort Pierce to where we were going. I wanted to make sure he was safe before I came. And forget getting gas, at least the way I was coming. All of the gas stations are empty. Long lines at the few that did have some gas still. I wasn't even going to bother trying to find supplies. And I was driving, and as soon as I hit where the hurricane warning was, my phone alarm went off, the emergency signal went off on it. Scared the bejesus out of me, because I'm not used to driving anyway, and so it was nerve-wracking. And then you get this emergency alert that I'm now in a hurricane warning area, not a watch, but a warning. The Indie Book Fest, they have swearing, it's still going on. I think it's going to become a huge hurricane party. There's a lot of people who have evacuated, so we're going to have a lot of evacuees here as well. And we're just going to do what we can to help make it a fun time. I brought a lot of arts and crafts stuff, so if there's kids here, and even the adults, there'll be a lot of different activities for them to do. If nothing else, we'll have a lot of books for them to read, so they won't be bored that way. But they're swearing, the organizers for the event swear it's going on. I've already met with some authors that are here. I've got other authors who are coming in. Mandy Stevens met with me yesterday afternoon as I was unloading the truck. I want to say a big thank you to Stephen, who works here at the Hilton. He graciously put aside what he was working on to help me get all of the stuff out of the truck and brought in, so I didn't have to worry about trying to do it in the rain today. So I was very impressed with him, so thank you very much. Valdora is talking about Hurricane Donna. She was 14 and it flooded the chicken farms. I can remember the different hurricanes as I was growing up when I lived in Tampa. And one of the things also with hurricanes is sometimes you get tornadoes. I think Hurricane Andrew I think they classified that as just a 200-mile-per-hour hurricane or tornado when it went through and just flattened everything in the Homestead area. And thank you, Ricky. Your mom has been fantastic. So we've been through quite a few hurricanes, but nothing this strong. Where I live, generally they either go south of us or north of us. It's kind of very unusual for them to hit us. I've lived in Fort Pierce for over 30 years now, and my husband was born and raised there, and he can't really remember how much, that kind of a hurricane that's been coming through. So we're just going to play it by ear. Like I said, I'm worried about the kids. My one son, they had a cat that they brought home. His fiance brought home from the vet's office where she works, and it took off. So he was a basket case last night because they're trying to catch this cat that is scared now because it's in an unfamiliar place, and he's worried about it. He's a big animal lover, and so he's trying all these different things because they can't draw it in with food. So he's determined to make sure the cat is fine. And I'm worried about Pia. I think she'll be fine, but I'm just, my son and daughter-in-law are there. My nephew is there as well. And I'm worried about the lakes flooding and the canals flooding. And being on the road, I've told my kids, don't get on the road. It's crazy right now. The last place you want to be is stuck in a car during a hurricane. So if anyone has any questions, it helps take my mind off of what's going on if I answer those. But I'm looking forward to the convention, even though everything is going to be crazy. I think in a way it's going to help keep me busy. I don't plan on getting much sleep tonight, I guess you could say. I was already up before 6 this morning, and I was thinking, oh, I'll stay up. Does writing stop you from worrying? Yes and no. If I get started, traffic's not bad, Ricky said. I don't, but that may be on the West Coast. I don't know how it is on the East Coast. Do you know anything? If Ricky knows anything about the traffic on the East Coast, let me know. It does help me stop worrying some, but I have to get started. I think it's that part right now, the worrying is stopping me from writing. And so I'm going to try to do some major writing today. I'm working on the Draglings, which is always a lot of fun. Oh my God, the story is turning out so cute. I love those little Draglings. Do I think many people will be at the convention because of the weather? That, I'm not sure from the sound of it. A lot of people say they're coming no matter what. But there are quite a few people who their flights were canceled. Orlando International Airport is closing at 10 a.m. So if you're not getting in before that, all flights from there have been canceled. Other people are driving in. So if they just need to make sure that they get gas outside of the hurricane warning area and make sure they come in with a full tank of gas if they are driving, or as much as possible. And the local residents, it's actually they're boarding up, and then the idea of coming to the convention is kind of fun for them because it's, like I said, it's one, it's a distraction. It'll be like a hurricane party, and a lot of people tend to like hurricane parties for some reason. Jesse, I have no problem with you staying put. Ricky says that I-75 is good, northbound. So that's pretty good because usually what happens is they'll, during a hurricane evacuation like they did in South Carolina, they end up turning all roads northbound so that you can get out of the way of the hurricane and they can evacuate, because they said 11 million people are evacuating. And they're smart, especially with the storm surge. We've had very unusual tides lately. The high tides have actually, in some places, coming over the road where they've never come over the road before. We have friends that live in St. Lucie Village, and it frequently, before, they never had any issues, but now the water's coming over, the river's coming over the road. And with the storm surge, you can look at anywhere from 6 to 15 feet, and you figure the size of a man, a 6-foot man, you got water that deep coming in, it's going to be going into your house. Target stores are closing tonight at 8, and they will be closed tomorrow. So if you need supplies, anyone that lives in this area, in Florida, you need to make sure that you get your supplies before then. I know it's going to be crazy. A friend of mine said that she went several places to get water and they were out, and she finally stopped at, trying to think where it was. I think it was just a convenience store, and they had some, and she ended up paying extra, but she said it was worth the $4 a case more to get the water. Hi, Melissa. Is there any new peeks you can give us into the Draglings? Just a taste. We're all, oh my God, I have some awesome teasers. I'm not sure if I can release them yet, but if I could, I will. I'd also probably like to get your input on the covers. I have 2 covers. I may need to tweak them. Melanie does such a fabulous job. It's like I immediately fell in love with both of them. And then I had some friends who took a look at them and they said, well, maybe if you did this a little bit different and that a little bit, it would make it just right. So I'll see if I can do have you guys help me tweak the covers on the Dragling story. But so far, I mean, I've just been giggling my butt off. Of course, Amber and Jade have been having a lot of fun lately. So I think you'll enjoy the story. And Jessie said that she went shopping at Publix yesterday. How was the store? I've kind of avoided going to the store since I knew that we were going to be leaving. And we had quite a bit of supplies still left over from our camping trip. So fortunately, I didn't have to go there. And then my husband went yesterday and picked up more stuff, but he's on the West Coast now. So he was able to get in because there's no hurricane. I think they were just under, I don't even know if they were under hurricane watch. But that's what we were trying to do, is get far enough away. But the storm keeps going further west, which means it's coming, closer to us. The next update is supposed to be at 11 o'clock. So we'll keep it. My daughter says she's good. I've been checking in with the kids all day, all morning, asking them, okay, have you done this? Have you done that? And this. I'm worried about my daughter, I think most, because she's got the 2 kids. And then including the 19-month-old who's into everything. And then she also lives near a canal and a lake. And the last time I showed you guys pictures, the lake, you couldn't see where the lake was or the road, because the lake had overflowed so much that the road had just, both of them, it just looked like a huge lake. Norel asked me about A Mate for Matrix, which is coming out on Tuesday, which is my birthday. It's like, okay, let's have a hurricane for my birthday instead. I told my husband I didn't want anything. He should have listened to me. A Mate for Matrix is a story dear to my heart. It actually, I was asked to be in this anthology to help support HeroDogs.org, which is a charity that provides service dogs for free to service veterans who are disabled. And I've written three other books. Let's see. A Touch of Frost was originally written for an animal shelter. And then I can't remember them all right now. My brain's kind of like fried. But I know I've done, or maybe it was just A Touch of Frost. And then this one. I can't remember. But I thought it was 3. And anyway, I was asked to do this story by by Veronica Scott and Pauline Jones, and I just couldn't turn it down. To be able to give back and use my talents as a writer to give back to other people is very, very important for me. And what I did was I came up with this idea, and you read about all of these, the guys are cyborgs, and I thought, what if it wasn't the guy so much that was a cyborg, but it was the dog or the animal that was the cyborg? And I came up with the Cyborg Protection Unit. And in this, it actually evolved to where it tied into the Zion Warriors series with Gracie Jones. I love Gracie's story. Gracie's one of my favorite. And so what happened is, the way the story evolved is I had the canine, that's his name is K9, evolve. He's a cyborg, and him and Matrix are Zion Warriors who are in this special unit, and it became a prequel to what actually leads up to the Aleuthians coming to Earth. So it will tie in, and we'll have its series which ties into the prequel. I'm going to write the 4 books for Adam and Chance and Adrian and Mark. And those are the four, part of the Freedom Five, if you remember. And so I'm going to write about the guys, but you needed to know where did the Aleuthians come from? Where, how did they find Earth? Why did they attack? All of this different stuff. And this story, this series is actually going to be bringing it in. And what I really loved was the cameo appearance of Gracie in the story, because you're going to get to see Gracie, who she is and how she grows up. And you're going to see, of course, more of her in the prequel with the four guys, because what she learns and how she copes with things is who she becomes. But even now, when you see this small cameo part of her in A Mate for Matrix, you're really going to understand Gracie's personality. She's just an amazing person. And yet she's the person who you are, or your next door neighbor, or your sister, or, your mom when she might have been younger. So you'll relate to her because, she has that innocence about her, yet she's curious. So I think you'll really, really enjoy A Mate for Matrix. And Pets in Space, if you haven't heard about it, I'm sure you have by now, has 9 great stories. 8 of them are original stories, never before published. One of them is an expanded story, so it's totally different from what it was originally released. And there's a lot that you're gonna, great sci-fi. We have New York Times bestselling author Susan Grant. We have Kara Bristol, who I'm super excited about joining us here. She's a USA Today bestselling author. And Veronica Scott, and Pauline Bard Jones, and several others. So I just want to make sure that everyone takes time. It will be on Amazon. Do not worry. We didn't do a pre-order for Amazon, but it will be on Amazon on Tuesday. So you can buy it, I guess, midnight Tuesday, or midnight Tuesday morning. You can get it. So, Valdora said she's straight across from us. I know. I'm trying to remember if I think we went by where you live, Valdora. Jesse asked me, am I dressing up on Friday or Saturday? I'm not sure yet. I didn't bring anything. I was going to wear this one dress, and it has these like little black sequins, and then I thought, oh my God, the hotel would strangle me. I'd be leaving a line of sequins everywhere. So I didn't bring that one. And then I went to grab another one, and trying to shutter up the house and pack everything up, I just totally forgot. Catalina said that she would try and help me, and I know they're going to do face painting there. So I may just have what I'm wearing and then face paint. So, but one way or another, it doesn't matter. I'm still going to be there. Thank you, everyone, for the early birthday wishes. I'm excited about it, and then I'm also frustrated because it's like, okay, in my mind, I'm still like at, maybe 16. It's like, and then I look in the mirror and I'm like, wait a minute, that's not what my 16-year-old self looked like. But it's like, I'll deal with it. How many of you are in Florida as well? If you guys could just say your name and say, hey, I'm here too. I know everyone. It was funny, this morning I was reading an article from Australia, of all places, and they had Altamont Springs in there with a picture of the gas station and long lines of people. And I started laughing, and it's like, oh, this is even over in Australia, they're talking about it. And when I saw the Altamont Springs, I'm like, yep, I probably went right by that, because I remember all the long lines coming out of the pumps. I mean, they were just starting to, if they didn't have bags already on the pumps, were the ones that were empty, they were taping them off because everyone was trying to get ready. And if you've been through the hurricanes, you realize that ice, water, and gas are the biggest ones. Jessie says she's glad she drives a Prius. I just sold mine because I wanted something a little bit bigger. to carry all my stuff to the conventions. But the Priuses are nice. I mean, I was getting 50 to 80 miles to the gallon. So, I mean, when they say they sip, they sip. And they handle like a dream. Diane lives in Orlando. Diane, are you going to be able to come to the convention? Right now, it's just, you can kind of tell it's getting a little bit darker out. I think the clouds, instead of being like nice and fluffy, usually when we have the rain clouds, they're like fluffy type clouds. This is like a solid black. It's not even, you can't really even distinguish a cloud formation. It's just like a blanket. And it reminds me of one of the photos. Oh, Ricky's coming into Gainesville, so he knows what I'm talking about. Just be safe. And I think it's going to get a little bit crazier as you head towards Tampa. I know a lot of our friends were evacuating to that area. And then, you know what really gets me? I was looking at the forecast, and they're expecting Matthew to go up the coast and then come back and loop back around. It's like, really? You're going to hit us not once, but maybe twice? I don't think so. Ivan did that. It went up, made a couple of loop-de-loops, and then came back in. And you wouldn't think that a storm would be able to do these things, but they do. And then there's another storm out there that we're also keeping an eye on. I don't know, where I live is called the Treasure Coast. And the reason it's called the Treasure Coast is because in 1715, there was a fleet of Spanish ships carrying treasure from Havana, Cuba, that were coming up, and they were caught in a hurricane. And so I think all but a couple of the ships, I think one or two of the ships sank. There was, I hate not giving accurate information, but I'm wanting to say that 13 ships went down, carrying millions and millions of dollars. In fact, one of them has $90 million worth of emeralds off the coast of Fort Pierce that still hasn't been found. They found a few emeralds here and there, but they haven't found the mother lode yet. But they've been able to find quite a few ships. And so what happened is it got hit by a hurricane. 3 days later, a second hurricane hit it. And so when the ships, because they were laden with treasure, when they hit the first reef, the top actually sheared off and went in towards shore, while the rest sank with the ballast stones and cannons and of course the gold and silver doubloons and jewelry and stuff. And right off of Frederick Douglass, they found, the huge 6-foot solid gold chains and the gold bars and the silver medallion doubloons and other things from 310 years ago. So it's really, really interesting. But if you look at I was looking at Jessie's comment. She said WFTV Channel 9 has the best hurricane coverage. She was right on in 2004. I'm just trying to breathe. So what happens is that, all of that jewelry, all of that sank and was covered over, and then again covered over with the next storm that happened 3 days later. So there's a little bit of history about why we were known as the Treasure Coast. And a lot of people like trying to get out onto the beaches if they can get there, because they usually close everything off to walk and do metal detecting and along the beaches after a storm, because there's a good chance you can find some stuff that has been revealed that has been covered up for centuries. So if you find it, make sure you find it on shore. Well, thank you, Shelley. I'm going to take a deep breath. I'll be back on later. I just want to say hi to everyone. Thank you for coming in and keeping me company this morning. And I'll let you know how the Indie Book Fest goes. And as long as we've got power and I've got internet, I'll let you know how Hurricane Matthew is doing here in Orlando, Florida. Talk to everybody later. Bye.